Welcome to another show, BlackSwanRadio.com. I'm your host, Rondale L. Jordan, author of the IlluminatedNubian.com book series. It's where I piece together real world African history or world history that has been taken out of context, right? It's been hidden in the scriptures we call the Bible. And there's so many examples of these allegories explaining our history, but because of the history of the 16th, 17th, 18th centuries, specifically the 16th century or 17th century, where the Bible was being translated into English from Greek and Latin. And I think the way it's been translated, respectfully, has been beautiful, right? It's very articulate. The only thing that I would say I would have a problem with is the African origins, the African nature being hidden. But then again, it makes it appealing to me, right? It makes me want to dive in and hunt more. It's not a religious quest for me. This is a quest for my ancestors, giving a voice or giving the perspective of the people of Cush, Kemet, Kerma, and Canaan, the Nile River Valley. And, if we look at the beginning of the story, Genesis 2, before any plant of the field was in the earth and before any herb of the field had grown, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. Right? These are two agricultural problems, right? This is a problem when you're trying to grow crops, right? Right? So immediately, two solutions to the problem came to be, right? Now, keep in mind that God could cause it to rain. God created everything we see on this planet Earth that's natural, that's organic. Right, and vegetation required rain as a result of the sun being born, which melted the ice and made not only the oceans but the vapors, which became the clouds that began the water cycle of life. So, the earth is a barren womb without the light and the heat, the warmth from the sun, which is a remnant in her core, in her belly. Matter of fact, the serpent goddess in the land of Canaan, in the land of Kemet, the land of Cush, was known as the Uraeus or the Eye of Ra, Wajet. She was able to personify in many different forms, but most popularly, she was the Eye of Ra, the serpent goddess, adorned the crown of Ra, and the kings and queens and priests of Egypt, or what the Greeks called Egypt, but the people, the inhabitant there, referred to as the Black Lands, or Kemet, KMT. And, there you see the stone monuments built in alignment with the star constellation. And this is what the Bible is about. It's just that, like the Alpha, the Omegas, right? In the beginning and the first and the last, they altered the language so that we did not understand each other's speech. We wouldn't understand what's going on. And fair enough, that is actually what's in the word, right? That's Genesis 11, right? But most people are not taught to know the difference between God, Lord God, and Lord. And so this is what I break down. The God in Genesis 1 is the spirit that hovered over the face of the waters, right? The creator, who made male and female in their image. It says, then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. That our is highlighted because it takes both male and female principles to create life, right? And this is the reason why it says in the next, so God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. So the male and female principle was brought into existence, created, used 3 times because it means to bring something into existence, which is different than made, which means to piece together the parts of something, and the form, which the Lord God did. God did not form. The earth was without form in Genesis 1. But the Lord God formed man of the dust, right? And we're going to get back into that here in a second, because that is the solution to the second problem, right? God, the Lord God, had not caused it to rain, and there was no man to till the ground. All right. So this says that a mist went up from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. And the Lord God formed man of the dust, not out of the dust. Of the dust means of the Sahara, of the desert. But in this desert area, right, where there was no rain, the mist that went up and watered the whole face of the earth or the ground, that is the Nile River. And so if there's any doubt, there's always confirmation. So you've seen the word formed used, which means shape to configure, which means to take what God has created, such as the wolf, and make a dog, or the mouflon and make a sheep, or the boar and make a pig. But it's the process of altering what God has created or made into something different. So the Lord God formed man of the dust, right? Then it says that the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, agricultural, and there he put the man whom he had formed. The second time the word form. Created used twice, made used twice, right? And then now the word formed used twice. So then it says, out of the ground the Lord God made every tree right, that was pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now, the word evil was used, but we also understand that you got to know knowledge is both. Knowledge is knowing that the river is there, but also is knowing that there's vipers and hyenas and lions and eagles along the way. And even if you get there, you got to beware of the crocodiles. So there's knowledge of the good and the bad that you need to know in order to be self-sufficient, right? So you can't be afraid of the negative, right? Knowledge is what it is, but it's the word evil was used instead of good or bad or negative and positive. It's because it has a negative emotional response. It stops you from going beyond that and saying, well, hold on. Number one, is this a garden if it has tree? Every tree that's good for fruit. If it's being maintained by resident labor. Now, it says a river went out of Eden to water, right, the garden. And from there it parted and became 4 river heads. So this is the description of the Nile River that becomes 4 river heads in the north, in the delta, and in the south, in the root of the Nile. This is the route from Cush to Assyria. All right. So they're going to explain this is the route, the water route. The water is the streets, which is what the conclusion in Revelations 22 concludes with, right? The river is the street, and this is the passage, the way that you get from Assyria into the land of Cush, where there is minerals, livestock, land, and slavery. All right? Or labor, servants. So it says the name of the first is Pishon. It is the one which encompasses the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of the land was good. And there was bdellium and onyx stone there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one which encompasses the whole land of Cush. So they're going by these lands. These lands are, the water is leading them into the land. They're coming down the Nile. And the reason why they hit Havilah first is because that is what the way from the north to the south. Because by definition, in Genesis 10:6, right, when it defines the sons of Ham, which Cush, Mizraim, which is the name, the Arabic or the Aramaic and the Hebraic name for the land of Kemet. So Cush, Kemet, and then Punt, and then Canaan, which are the two ends. All right. So if you go north, you go to Canaan. If you go south, you in the Punt. And these are the offspring of Ham. The Ham is the East Africa. Now it says the sons of Cush was Seba, and then Havilah. So Havilah is the second son, right? I'm not there. The first was Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabteka, right? And then the sons of Rama were Sheba and Dedan, who were begotten. Havilah was also begotten. Begotten means either adopted or sieged. Besieged, it was taken. So Havilah was taken eventually, quickly. It was the first port taken. But it was the son of Cush, the offspring of Cush, the Cushite Empire. The Cush representing the southern Nubian lands in the south. All right. Havilah represents the land in the north, lower Egypt. All right. The name of the third river is Hiddekel. It is the one which goes towards the east of Assyria. So again, this is another clue. Hidden, like the word Hiddekel, hidden, go. Hidden is the river that goes towards east of Assyria. All right. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. So the Nile River, then it goes and flows into the Mediterranean Sea, and then into the Assyria eastward, towards the east, down through the Euphrates. So you can see that in present day on a map, and you also see when this took place in the second millennia, how the Assyrian Empire controlled the landmass, the Nile River, what we call Israel or Canaan, the land of Canaan, and Assyria. It's just natural that these forces would try to occupy this landmass because of its position in the center of trade, the trade routes between Africa and Asia and Europe, or Eurasia, and the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, which used to be one great sea that surrounded Africa, right? Until the landmass was cut off by the Suez Canal, and Africa has been disconnected from the Asian Minor, the rest of the world, where you can walk into Asia or India or westward towards Rome and Spain and so forth. So this is the metaphor of the serpent being cast, right? And which cut off the African rule or cut off African access. And so this is a river that you see is the route. At the end of the Bible, at the last chapter, in the conclusion, it talks about the river. It's the revelation. It reveals in greater detail that the river is the water route. It says, and he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God and of the Lamb. In the middle of its streets, on either side of the river, was the tree of life, which is papyrus that grows only along the Nile, that brought into sums of money into that kingdom, brought into golden age. It says, the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each tree yielding its fruit every month. This tree of life is also connecting you to the Genesis, right? And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations, and it shall be no more curse. Remember, curse the fig tree in Matthew 20:21. And then Adam and Eve sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. So you have to kind of understand that all of this is connected to Egyptian root. This is the reason why out of Egypt I call my son. Christ, his father, is calling him from out of Egypt, and he shall be called a Nazarene, meaning his mother was in Israel. And these two are combined into one soul.